So as I said, we're standing on Havenhurst Avenue in Encino, California. Right behind me was the former home of Michael Joseph Jackson. I think they still own this house. I'm not sure who's living there right now. Maybe Michael Jackson's mother, his family. I'm not really sure. So chime in and tell me what you know about this house in Encino, California. But I grew up as Michael Jackson's neighbor right up the street, guys. We were up in the hill. Michael Jackson was down here on the flats, and I grew up off a cul-de-sac area where we could go out and play when we were younger. But Michael Jackson and his family didn't have that ability to play outside of his fences. Let me show you, because this is Havenhurst Avenue, a very busy thoroughfare going up to Mulholland Drive. And so Michael Jackson and his family really couldn't come out and play in the front yard. Here's the gates to Michael Jackson's house right here. There's no address on the mailbox or out in front. I believe that's so that people won't come by and know what the address is, but it's right next to 4643, and I should know the number, but it's right in back of here, goes all the way back, and to the left was Michael Jackson's house back in the early 70s. And as you can see, they have private property signs posted on the neighbor's side, mostly because there's a lot of looky-loos like me, fans of Michael Jackson, tourists coming by to see where Michael Jackson and his family grew up. And I was here, guys, I was here back in the 1970s, and a friend of mine was a neighbor of Michael Jackson. Now, so today we're going to do a video on Michael Jackson's early childhood and adolescence, guys. I'm not going to be talking about anything that's really super controversial or off color or anything about the case or any of that stuff. We're going to be talking about the good part of Michael Jackson's past, his childhood and his early adolescence here in Encino, California. So I might do another video on the other stuff later, but just so you know, it's going to be family-friendly content right here, so you don't have to worry about that. YouTube, COPPA disclaimer, this video is not for children under 13 years old, but anyway, let's get to some secrets or some unknown facts about Michael Jackson from his childhood, because I grew up right up the street and we knew the Jackson 5. They were our neighbors. Now, Michael Jackson, as I said, went to a private school right up the street. It was called Cresbi. It was that direction over there, but Cresbi was a private school for kids who, rich kids, troubled kids who need a little bit more guidance, etc. Now, what's interesting is that Michael Jackson would wear a uniform at this private school, and the uniform consisted of a dinner jacket, like a smoking jacket with an emblem on it, a little stitched crest, embroidered crest. He would wear dark slacks and basically loafers. And what's really amazing is I believe that Michael Jackson's style sense later on in life was influenced by his time at this private school, because you could see Michael Jackson dressing in this almost military style outfit with epaulets and crests on his chest and other things. I'll show you some pictures of right now about him wearing stuff later on in his life. I think it was early influenced by his private school time here in Encino, California. Another one of Michael's trademarks was his pants that were a little too short, wearing white socks and penny loafers And that came, I believe, from his experience at this private school. Called Cresbi. And there's a very interesting story about Michael Jackson, which leads me to another secret, or another unknown fact about Michael Jackson, is that Michael Jackson was a pretty darn good artist. And he used to draw and, I believe, paint, but mostly draw, doodle. And there's a famous story from a lady who went to school with Michael Jackson at this private school. And she was featured on none other than an Antique Roadshow, where she told the story that Michael Jackson was drawing these pictures in class one day, daydreaming, drawing pictures, doodling, and he put them in the trash. And she very wisely went and picked up the trash and went to Michael Jackson and asked him if she could have them, and also if he could sign them for her. And he did, and he signed these two pieces of artwork. Sorry about that, so noisy. He signed these two pieces of artwork. One was, I believe it was a drawing of a lady that used to take care of Michael Jackson, but another drawing was of the famous Charlie Chaplin, which Michael Jackson always identified with Charlie Chaplin, the lonely little tramp. And he used to love Charlie Chaplin's movies and all his work. And you can see that there's a lot of influence of Charlie Chaplin on Michael Jackson. Hey, I'm just going to insert that little insert from the Antique Roadshow so you can see Michael Jackson's artwork. I'll insert it right here. So a third little secret or unknown fact about Michael Jackson, some might know this. Michael Jackson was a sugar addict. He had a major sugar tooth, and which some believe that caused his acne, which his father Joe Jackson teased him about, which was just horrible. Michael Jackson was, for all accounts purposes, he was abused as a child by his father, emotionally abused, physically possibly, we heard. Now right down the street from us, right this way on Ventura Boulevard in Havenhurst, is a very upscale market called Gelson's. Very upscale. You know, my mom used to shop there for us. Rich people here in the neighborhood would all shop at Gelson's. The prices are outrageous, but the food is excellent, the highest quality food. And Michael Jackson used to shop at Gelson's Market. And here's a little fun fact, that we used to see Michael Jackson driving himself just after he got his driver's permit and driver's license, driving himself in his Rolls-Royce. Now, we used to see Michael Jackson shop at Gelson's Market, and here's an interesting fact, unknown to most of you, but I witnessed it firsthand. Michael Jackson used to carry a briefcase, and he used to go in shopping at Gelson's, and he'd buy a whole bunch of candy, chocolate, candy. He had a major sweet tooth. Reports show that he used to hide it in his house from his parents because they didn't want him having the candy, but he didn't care. He used to buy candy and put it in the briefcase and drive back home right over here, go to his house, and nobody would look in his briefcase because they thought it was business. But he had candy in there, guys, and he was eating his candy. And the poor guy, he basically didn't have much of a childhood here. As I told you, he and his brothers couldn't really play out here It's just too busy of a street here on Havenhurst Avenue. So Michael Jackson and his family used to play with inside their walls of their property. It was a very big property, bigger than what we had. We were up on the hill though. We had a view, and Michael Jackson and his family were down here on the flats. Now, Michael Jackson's youngest brother, Randy, went to a elementary school which all my friends went to up the street called Lanai. And I believe Randy one time wrecked his Mercedes-Benz. I don't even think he had his license, but Randy was sort of living in the shadow of Michael, the youngest. And, but Michael Jackson and his family used to play inside here. And you know, remember, this is a heavily white Jewish neighborhood, and there were not many African-American black people here in Encino at the time. Very few. I went to school with Lou Rawls's kids. C.C. Eckstein, that was Billy Eckstein's kids. The Silvers went to my junior high school. They had a very famous hit back in the 70s, the Silvers. They were kind of like a Michael Jackson wannabe group. And the Jackson 5 used to live right here. So there weren't many African Americans in Encino, and they kind of, because of where they lived, they kind of kept to themselves. They were a little, I guess, just to themselves because they didn't know really what to expect, but we all liked them. We all thought they were our own, you know, family that lived in our neighborhood. We were proud of the Jacksons. We loved the Jackson family. We loved the music, and we used to say, well, you know, the Osmonds or whatever, but we have the Jackson 5 here in our hometown, Encino, California, right here, guys. The Jackson 5. There was a great sense of pride from that. Now, I'm not sure if he actually purchased the bones of the Elephant Man. I don't think he did, but he was trying to. He had an interest in it. But he had some other really quirky habits, and one was that he was into fantasy. And of course, we all know that. And at this residence, he built a little fantasy candy store, ice cream shop, whatever it was, right in here. This was before he moved to Neverland, and then he built his whole amusement park there, and many believe that he was trying to recapture his childhood, which he never had because his father put him to work at such an early age, and Michael Jackson's sort of childhood development was stunted, and maybe possibly leading to some of this strange behavior later on in life where he loved being Now, another interesting fact about Michael Jackson is when he got a little older, when he got famous, he couldn't go anywhere, guys. He couldn't go out of the house. He couldn't go anywhere, and that's pretty much why he moved to Santa Barbara to get some relief. He also had some condos around town, which my friend Scott on Tape has gone on and visited some of those locations. Go check out my friend Scott on Tape. Scott, I'm here right in front of Michael Jackson's house. I wanted to bring you here, buddy. Next time you come out, let's do a video. Anyway, Michael Jackson couldn't really go anywhere. He was like sequestered because of his fame. But later on, to get a feeling of normalcy, he used to rent out whole grocery stores in the after hours and actually have a bunch of actors playing normal people in the market where he could interact with them, where he would be feeling normal like he was younger, interacting with people maybe at Gelson's before he became famous. I don't know, but it's a very strange thing. He used to rent out large grocery stores at night and have a bunch of actors acting like they're shopping, and they talk to Michael and they have little chit-chat conversations. It was just his way of trying to recapture his normal life, because he did not have a normal life, guys. He was constantly being scrutinized, and I find that very interesting. I have a couple pictures of Michael Jackson shopping at this grocery store that I told you about, where he would rent it out for the night. I heard Elvis used to do this, rent out movie theaters, bowling alleys, amusement parks. But Michael Jackson would have actors in there acting like they were just normal people, interacting with them. I don't know, did you guys know that? That's pretty strange. So we're up here at my neighbor's house, my next door neighbor in Encino. He still lives here. This is his view out his backyard. But you can see right down here, that's where Michael Jackson lived, down there, all the way down on the flats. But we're up here on the hills. We got the killer view from up here. That's Universal Studios over there, San Bernardino Mountains. Yeah, so this is a beautiful backyard, huh? So those are just some of the interesting facts, unknown facts about Michael Jackson's childhood and early adolescence. And like I said, I was here, Michael Jackson's neighbor right up the street, just a minute away. I had friends who were his next door neighbors right here on the side and in the back. I went to school with a guy who shared the back wall with Michael Jackson's family there. And like I said, they were pretty much to themselves. Sometimes you would see them out here pulling out of the driveway, or etc. But they were pretty much to themselves, very private. Of course, they were all worth a lot of money, so maybe they were worried about people messing with them. I'm not sure. But I just thought I'd bring you out here to Michael Jackson's Havenhurst house growing up in Encino, California. When he got here from Gary, Indiana, he saw a whole new world here. I believe he liked it in Encino, but when he got too famous, he had to leave and go to Santa Barbara just to get some privacy. But that's Michael Jackson's childhood home here in Encino, California. Thought you'd like it. Leave some comments. Tell me any more information about Michael Jackson that you might have, or add something to my stories, or comment on what I told you.